If you're watching this SCP, another one by Alpha Shocker. Thanks. I was gonna say thanks, my dude. I don't know. Oh my gosh, I just woke up like 20 minutes ago, so I'm kind of like getting into character. Lunar was lost. No, I'm just joking. I'm always a character. Anyways, this is SCP-056. Sending out a lot of love, you guys. I hope these two SCPs I covered are interesting enough, because right now, if you don't know, I'm in the middle of a move, so I'm not even in this spot anymore that you see me in recording this. So that's so cool. It's like a weird time capsule sort of thing. But anyways, so I hope these SCPs quench your thirst for the videos for now, and I appreciate you guys for watching. So let's hop on. I think this one's by Dr. Bob too. It is by Dr. Bob, so shout out to Dr. Bob as always. I'm gonna show it on the screen. Boom. You know what we getting into? A beautiful person. You guys are all beautiful people. I'm sorry. Anyways, okay, let's get in here. As always, send out a lot of love. Take destiny into your own hands. Don't step on anyone else's destiny. Let's go.
The gleaming steel scissors glide effortlessly through the sheet of red material, slicing through as if nothing was there. The blood-red fabric parts to either side. A pair of hands pick up one of the pieces and hold it up into the air. The man admires his handiwork before draping the cloth on a dress form and pinning it in place. Although there are many tables in the large room with sewing machines and mannequins next to them, they're all empty. The man works all alone in the big room. And it is impossible not to notice that he's an incredibly handsome man, too. So good-looking that no matter your preferences, you can't help but stop and take notice of his perfect facial features, his slim, fit physique, his lithe, dexterous hands. He brushes a strand of dirty blonde
What? Wow.
hair away from his vibrant blue eyes and takes a pin out of his mouth before adjusting the fabric just a millimeter.
I almost wish he drew the pupils bigger, like, or just the whole, just I wish he just filled the eye a little bit more, and I feel like it would look more human. He looks like a handsome deranged serial killer, maybe.
And takes a pin out of his mouth before adjusting the fabric just a millimeter more before sticking it in place. The man steps away from the dress form and admires his work. There. Absolutely perfect. There's no...
The energy he's giving me is like what is the killer from Dead by Daylight? The superstar. Was it like a Korean K-pop star or something like that? That's who he reminds me of.
doubt that this will be the closing look of the upcoming fashion show. Another masterpiece. Just like him. But that doesn't mean that he's finished. There's still much to be done, and he goes back to work at his table, sewing bits of fabric together to create embellishments for the opulent couture gown. He's so focused on his new design that he doesn't notice the fashion house's operating manager in the hall outside of the workroom. The manager points through the glass window in the door and tells the two police officers with him that this is the man they're looking for. There's been a number of tragic and mysterious crimes involving people connected to this fashion company, and the police have finally closed in on a suspect. Well, not the police exactly, but two SCP Foundation agents posing as police officers. The Foundation became suspicious after learning that there had been several missing persons, murders, and mental breakdowns, all of which involved people connected to this one company. And even more specifically,
it almost seems like the building's the SCP itself.
They were all connected to one man.
Never mind.
There was plenty of evidence that something more than just regular criminal activity was happening here. Something strange was happening.
Now I feel like that was intentional. His design was intentional to look that bugged out, because I don't even need to say more.
Something anomalous. One of the police officers nods at his partner before gesturing for the manager to leave. It's always better not to have civilians present during a containment. The incredibly handsome man still hasn't noticed his guests in the hall, remaining completely absorbed in his work, and he doesn't even look up when the two agents burst into the room, both with guns drawn, not taking any chances. "Freeze! Drop your weapon!" one of the agents shouts, but the beautiful man doesn't respond and just continues snipping away at fabric with his scissors. "I said freeze!" he commands again, and this time, the handsome man at least appears to have heard them, finally stopping his work. He slowly looks up with his piercing eyes to gaze at the men who have intruded into his creative workspace. "Drop your weapon now," the agent tells him. The man looks over at his hand, which still holds the large pair of scissors, and smiles.
Is he gonna say you mean these and then chuck them?
He gently places the scissors down on the table, careful not to let them touch the expensive cloth that is rolled out before him. "Now put your hands up!" This time, there's no response, and the man grips the edge of the table, smiling, and stares into the eyes of the agents, first one, then the other. "Hands up or we'll be forced to shoot!" The smile slowly leaves the handsome man's face. "Will you excuse me for one moment?" he says, though with no hint in his voice that it's actually a request. The agents seem unsure of what to do, both of...
See, these must be the cannon fodder agents. Because if you're containing an SCP, wouldn't you just bag them? It actually almost makes me happy that there are rules for containing an SCP. I mean, they don't know what he's capable of, so I guess it wouldn't be smart to just lose 2 agents, but to go in as if you're regular cops, that procedure just doesn't seem that, you know, he's not complying already, and this is an SCP. This isn't a normal dude, so I mean, I don't think they know that though, right? No, well, yeah, because they said SCP agents, not cops. So they know, obviously, something's weird, but they didn't bring any backup. You know, sometimes they contain these SCPs, and I'll be like, they contain them in such a weird way. They go about it in a weird way. I love
them
it, though.
Appear taken aback and confused by his nonchalant attitude. The handsome man turns away from the agents and quickly steps behind a dressing screen that's been set up near his work table. As he walks behind it, he doesn't break his stride at all. He simply passes behind the screen for mere seconds and steps out on the other side. Only once he steps out, it isn't him anymore. The man that emerges from behind the screen is a completely different person. Where once he was slim, graceful, clean-shaven, and dressed in a fine suit, now he is heavy and muscled, like a professional football player, with a thick beard and dressed as if he's a member of a SWAT team. Before the agents can even react to the bizarre metamorphosis, the large man charges them and begins attacking. He snaps the neck of one and plunges the scissors he snatched off the table into the other's neck. More SCP containment specialists, these ones dressed in tactical gear with...
I knew they had backup on the ready.
No attempt made to disguise themselves as everyday police, flood into the room and open fire. But the man who looks like a Navy SEAL picks up the fallen agent's guns and begins firing both at the same time. He outguns and outmaneuvers the agents, effortlessly rolling behind cover.
Aren't the helmets supposed to be bulletproof?
While constantly firing, taking out agent after agent. Screams fill the air, both from the dying SCP agents as well as the civilians who are struck through the walls by the onslaught, including the manager, who had snuck back to the door window to watch what he thought would be the snobby, handsome man being taken into custody. The window behind the special ops soldier explodes, and 2 SCP agents rappel through, catching him by surprise and knocking him to the ground. It takes even more agents rushing in to hold the man down as he struggles and screams like a wild animal, breaking one of their jaws for good measure before they're finally able to subdue him and confine him with heavy-duty straps. When all is said and done, 17 agents...
I'm not gonna lie, that's mad cool. He went and put on new clothes and became a whole different person. I'm assuming that's like his anomalous property. He like that's cool. That's pretty cool. My son was like, what was his name? Was it Kevin 11? I don't know if it was Kevin 11. Was it from Ben 10? And he could touch like materials and then become the material.
And 10 civilians have lost their lives.
Damn.
But the anomaly has finally been contained. Once it is taken to a secured location, it is given a new designation, SCP-056. But the site staff soon give it a new nickname, calling it simply, a beautiful person. SCP-056 is one of the most deceptive and one of the most dangerous anomalies known to the SCP Foundation. It is a being whose size, gender, and appearance can all vary in an instant, and which will change in response to its environment. The form it has most commonly taken while in containment resembles a man who appears to be in his mid-20s. His exact looks will vary slightly, but he will always be what could be described as incredibly handsome, at least by traditional societal standards. His clothes will change as well to be a style similar to those of other people around him, though they will always be of a higher quality and more aesthetically pleasing than anyone nearby is wearing.
Okay.
While that appears to be SCP-056's preferred form, it's far from its only one. In addition to the young man, It has also been observed taking on the appearance of several others, including a woman with a striking resemblance to Hollywood actress Scarlett Johansson, a form it took when walking past a group of a younger female staff, a male bodybuilder who could bench press over 250 kilograms, which was 30 kilograms more than the strongest security guard stationed at the Foundation site. It took the form of a female doctor who was measured as having an IQ score 30 points higher than any on-site researchers, as well as non-human forms, like a large, well-groomed Labrador retriever when it was exposed to another researcher's dog, and an extremely aesthetically pleasing couch when left alone in its own containment chamber. These changes from one form to another occur whenever people lose focus on the subject, something that seems to happen when new people are exposed to SCP-056. And once they lose focus, it's able to change in appearance virtually instantaneously. Attempts to film the transformation have resulted in the recording equipment exhibiting the same effect, seemingly losing focus, and being unable to see exactly what happens when SCP-056 changes from one form to another. Its clothing will change along with its bodily form, though so far it hasn't been observed manifesting weapons or other tools.
Okay. That's crazy. I'm like bugging out. I find this so interesting that I'm just so captivated. I can't say anything. It's actually really cool SCP. I like this one. I like the flesh one. The flesh one was like disgusting and a great thing to watch before bed. Luckily, nothing happened when I watched it. Usually when you watch something horrible before you go to bed, you're going to end up dreaming about it. So I thought I would end up picking a bottle up off the street and then turning into a mound of sack meat and leather. But at least I didn't. Now, with this is cool. This one's a cool SCP too. It's weird. It's like, for a minute, what I thought, because of him cutting the clothes, it was going to be like that guy is his normal form. And he always comes off as a fashion designer, and it was going to be something with the clothes, like how it was set up from the thumbnail. I thought he was going to be the anomaly, but whatever he made outfits, they became the anomaly. Like, I thought that red dress was going to turn into the girl, or something like that, but he needed a mannequin and high quality clothes. That's what my mind was doing, or high quality fabric. And then another thing was when he went behind the divider, I thought that he was going to put on a different outfit and take on different characteristics like of the outfit. So it would have been crazy if the same dude that went back there, just put on the SWAT outfit and then gain the abilities of whatever he was cosplaying. That would have been crazy. But this dude's the ultimate cosplayer. I think Foxkin would enjoy him.
Great efforts have been made to determine SCP-056's original form, though
my son went as far as to turn into a couch.
Far, these have all been met with failure. When placed within an empty concrete cell and placed under constant video surveillance, the cameras experienced the same loss of focus that others did, and then were met with a rather surprising figure left in the room. SCP-056 had taken the form of a video camera, similar to the one being used to record it, though a slightly more advanced and expensive model. Additional attempts were made to discover...
He turned into a red camera? Is that what it is? Let me see. A red camera. Yeah, he turned into a red camera. Oh my gosh. 49,000.
Cover its true form, this time without direct observation equipment, with researchers instead making use of passive scans that could detect changes to life forms. When they left SCP-056 alone and monitored it using these tools, what they found was nothing. There was no detectable body temperature, heartbeat, or even weight. It appeared that when not observed, SCP-056 simply ceased to be. Those who have personal contact with SCP-056 often report that the anomalous entity makes them feel substandard or jealous, as if they can't measure up to it, yet at the same time will seem to seek its approval. This extends to SCP security staff, who will express a desire to follow its commands, while researchers will try to argue with it, something that usually results in them leaving its containment cell feeling as though they were outwitted by its intelligence. And SCP-056's expert communication abilities...
I mean, that's how most people feel if they try to yell at me and argue with me. So, I mean, I guess I'm SCP-056.
seem not to be limited by complex subjects or language barriers. Research has shown it to be fluent in at least 200 different dialects.
That makes
and
sense.
it has exhibited an expert level of knowledge in such varied topics as fashion, automobiles, theoretical science, sports, and a multitude of others, all of
makes
which
sense.
it will usually show a greater knowledge of than the person it is conversing with. And despite leaving the conversations feeling dejected about their own abilities, those who talk to it will almost always express a desire to speak with SCP-056 again, as if they can't resist being made to feel inadequate by it. A number of tests were then performed to discover just what form SCP-056 would take when presented with various situations, and the results were rather interesting. In the first, a male Class D personnel was given a knife and told to try and attack SCP-056. 056 quickly took the form of a young, fit man who was able to effortlessly disarm the attacking D-Class and killed him with the knife instead. In another test, a female D-Class entered its cell not with a weapon, but with a bottle of expensive wine. They were met with SCP-056 in the form of a young, beautiful woman who accepted the wine, but upon trying it, spit it out in the D-Class's face and sent them away. Next, researchers sent 2 D-Classes in at the same
I
time.
thought they were gonna try to poison the wine. I hope they do a test where like, oh, never mind. Never mind.
One male and one female, with no specific orders at all. SCP-056 appeared as a beautiful woman in a well-tailored business suit, who proceeded to examine both the D-Classes, pointing out their each and every physical flaw before sending them 2 on their way. Researchers then tried sending 10 Class D personnel into the cell, all of whom were male and who had expressed a romantic preference for females. SCP-056 appeared as an especially beautiful female in a low-cut red dress.
Okay.
056 didn't interact with the group in any way, but after 10 minutes, the D-Classes began to look uncomfortable. Soon, an all-out brawl broke out between the D-Classes as they violently assaulted each other, apparently for SCP-056's approval.
And like in the beginning, it said in the papers that the people, I guess at the factory, or people around, like brawls and stuff happened, or fights broke out.
056 seemed to watch the melee with pleasure for several minutes before calling an end to it and sending them all out. A member of staff then volunteered to be tested with SCP-056, a Level 4 personnel who was regarded as being especially beautiful herself. She entered SCP-056's cell, where the anomaly took the
Oh, it's gonna be corny. The person's gonna leave broken, right? I think the stories would be so cool if they could write someone who's basically unfazed by anything that SCP-056 does, and that would have been cool. Like, cause it has like, I know I use this term wrong, but it has cognitohazard effects, I guess I would say, like, cause that is your cognition that's being like technically, in a way, okay? It's your mind. Your mind is being altered. You're feelings run, you know? Come on now. Feelings run the universe, so you're feeling, I mean,
form of a similarly beautiful, professional
we have to get too technical. You're feeling, so
looking woman, and the two proceeded to have a conversation, discussing various advanced personnel management techniques. The discussion seemed amiable, but after 90 minutes, the staff member appeared to become infuriated with SCP-056 and quickly left the room. While no cross-tests with other SCPs have yet to be performed, when asked about other anomalies, SCP-056 shows a rare instance of vulnerability, expressing hatred towards them, and even occasionally, fear. SCP-056 has been relatively benign in its time in SCP containment.
Wait, what SCP is that?
Other SCPs have yet to be performed. When
It doesn't like this SCP? This one's like free to roam the facility.
asked about other anomalies, SCP-056 shows a rare instance of vulnerability, expressing hatred towards them.
And who's this? Is this the Yule Man or someone else?
And even occasionally, fear. SCP-056 has been relatively benign in its time in SCP containment, seemingly content to spend its time around Foundation staff. It's been allowed to have a cell of its own choosing, as well as pick its own furnishings, which have tended towards expensive and fashionable decor. Security staff assigned to guard it are equipped with high-powered tranquilizers, and any staff that exhibit mental irregularities after extended exposure to SCP-056 must undergo immediate psychological examination. It has frequently asked for access to the internet, and when asked why it desires that, SCP-056 responded that the Foundation was unable to provide it with enough sycophants, and that it wanted the whole world to know its face. Needless to say, its request for internet access was denied, and the anomaly, which has been classified as Euclid, continues to be securely cut off from the general public and remains in Foundation containment. Now go and watch another entry from the files of Dr. Bob, like
A
SCP-054,
water nymph.
the water nymph.
My dude went drawing ham on that. I want to watch this one. My man went hard on the drawing. What was that thing I was gonna say? I was gonna say, my man, SCP-056 is like the living bird box. Like literally the living bird box. That's so funny. He said he wants the whole world to see his face and he doesn't have a form. If you guys haven't watched Bird Box, like that's a little hint to it, but you should go check out Bird Box or at least look up what it was, because this man is like, yeah, he's the living version of that, or what he was trying to do. Alright, other than that, hope you enjoyed. Much love and moonlight, and as always, I don't even know. Peace, guys.